Hello, welcome back to Sage Thyme. Today's reading is for the sign of Cancer. So if you've got your sun in Cancer, or your first house is Cancer, or anywhere Cancer is in your astrological natal chart, or simply this message resonates with you, it's for you. So perfect. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. I know it's been a while. I had a lot of 3D matters that simply had to require my attention. That happens, and I, as you can see, had to move the space that we're in. There will be changes for sure in the background of the messages that I give, as I have been in almost a year long now transition of moving house. And I'm telling you all this, I feel like, we're in the sign of Cancer today. Cancer is house and home. It's the maternal, it's the great ocean on this planet. It's our planet's ocean, where Pisces would be more the cosmic seas. And so there's an ebb and a flow, and a withdrawal of the tides and a coming in of the tides. And how perfect that the beginning of today's message was me telling you I've been moving house for the last year. I've been put in temporary situations, and I've had to go with the flow, the wu wei, travel with the river's pace, and the journey of the one raindrop, the one water drop. And I'm finding my way back home to a new home. So many big things have transpired that are more personal to me, but I feel like this idea of the backdrop, the message is coming in with a different backdrop. And sometimes it's appealing, sometimes you like some more than others, and that speaks also about people. One of the most humbling and rewarding things about realizing that Spirit gets a kick out of delivering messages through people that we might deem less wise. We'll just give that an overarching description there. And Spirit will do it that way for so many different reasons, of course, but also to remind us that if we're listening from our heart and not our mental programs, the programs that have judgments and assessments and evaluations of people and situations, where the heart actually knows what's at the core of something. And when we listen from the heart, it can come from somebody that is in the complete opposite spectrum of how you would live your life or conduct yourself, or politics or religion or education, all the things, whatever. But those are, when those messages come through from those people, it's not how the individual is meaning it, it's the message itself. And when you're listening from your heart space, you can hear the true message coming from Spirit. And I can hear my little buddy is panting here. So if you hear him, he's wanting to be a part of this message. I'm sure the cat will be here soon as well. So the backdrop is changing, but the messages are coming through. And with each backdrop change, each time I need to shift and move and pivot, and all the things I'm working through on my own personal third dimensional interface, each time it gets better. I get better, like more seasoned, right? I feel that. And I feel that for me, but I feel that that's a message for you as well. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad you're here. It's an amazing reading. I didn't expect to do a reading today. The spirits have been pulling on me, and I wasn't sure if I should or would go back to readings. Of course, I love doing them. My audience is very small still, as you can see. And yet, the ones who show up are showing up with a presence, that I can feel this reciprocity and exchange of wisdom and upgrading and transformation, healing. So I'm glad you're here. And let's get into the message, because I feel like I could just talk to you. And I don't know all of you personally, but I feel like you and I could simply just talk. And I believe that's what Spirit wants to, is for you to, confirmation, for you to get in that heart presence space and continue to bloom and open and enrich it. Sorry, there we go. And from that space, from your conscious viewing, your visioning, your presence through that heart space, being in auditory communication as well as internal communication with Spirit, refining that auditory communication while being able to be in greater presence of your embodiment. So let's get into this, Cancer. I've pulled 3 cards from the Forest Meditation deck that you saw me using last solstice, winter solstice, holiday season. And I went to pull out one and 3 cards came out, and then I knew that today was a message to be shared. So the first 3 to come out are a snail's pace, the map. Here we go. I'm working with new camera lens type situations. The map, and the forest treasure. So we're going to get into all 3 of those cards. I found that the message wanted to be delivered in a story way. Story is so important, and I was receiving these messages while preparing to do this reading. Some people are really talented at being concise and getting to the point, and that's really catchy, especially in a go, fast-paced society. However, there is something to be said about the whole story. We watch movies and we watch long extended series on TV to get the story, to be immersed in the different steps along the journey of the path. I used to be so, for the last several years, I was really, really self-aware of my talking, how I felt so tangential, and it felt right, but it didn't feel like other people appreciated it or enjoyed it. And so I was really self-conscious, and I was trying to consolidate and paraphrase and everything. And maybe, there are times where that needs to be happening. You're at the postal office and you need to mail a package, telling them the entire story of how you got the box and the gift that's in, and it's just not necessary. Although it could be really awesome if we all interacted that way more and more. So sharing the story and the ability to provide a story with the details and the essence of it and the emoting experiences of it is what makes it rich. As adults, we read books that are very descriptive in the narrative and the environment, and giving the feel through those different interactions of what the experience is, even more than simply just saying, it was hard and it was challenging, or it was, there's all these different ways to convey the richness and the depth of a story. And that's what makes life worth it. It's the richness of this story. You know, we talk about it's not the destination, it's the journey. Well, what does that mean? It's the detail. The goddess is in the detail. And it's the experience of it. And in truth, whether you work in other dimensional realms and so forth and otherwise, it is valuable to understand that everybody is viewing somebody. You know, I have my pets, and so I see them interact, and they're a bit of a source of entertainment for me. But sometimes I'll sit at a park bench or go into the forest and sit on a fallen mother log, and I'll take that in, and I will absorb it and soak it in. And that, from those experiences, I get stories. I get layers and depths and feelings and sensations. And because I know how to speak the language of a forest, I get the actual story, even beyond the experience. And we're also watched and observed. And I'm not talking Big Brother or any of that goofiness. But our ancestors are watching and observing, and they're learning from us. So, of course, it's really important that we take that responsibility to heart, because as they come back in future generations and so forth, they will be learning from our mistakes, from our trudging through the harder things to do better, to be better, to problem solve, to create an environment and a world that is sustainable for 7 generations out. And the story, the details, the feelings, the expressions, the nuance, I love that word is popular right now. It's not often I do, but these things are so essential. Not only in conveying that experience, but in creating a foundation for the next generations, or the listeners, or the viewers, if you have, so have you, to learn from and to step upon, right? That will become their trail on the map. All right, so let's get into these cards. I've got a little bit of a unique setup here. So the first card, A Snail's Pace. Let's talk about this. We're already 12 minutes in, but there was some good stuff that wanted to be discussed. Let's zoom that in. Okay, first of all, look at all these mushrooms. And they're on a cut log that will be becoming a mother log. But we've got all these. We've got a mushroom that's got like a spider webbing effect. We've got mushrooms up here. You can't exactly see it in the camera lighting, but they're a bit luminescent. They glow a little bit in the backdrop, with the backdrop of the stars. And I heard something to the effect of tapping into each part, each essence, each characteristic of these different mushrooms. The web weaver that weaves his dress. It's also his, I believe, I vaguely remember from a documentary, this is part of its spore projection situation and protection, and then the glow in the dark ones. I heard, access your bioluminescence by connecting with the light of the stars. That's exactly what they said before. Isn't that beautiful? And here we've got these, I don't know if they're like elephant ear, I forget what they're called as well. I don't know mushrooms very well, I won't pretend. I love these ones because, okay, I don't know if this is a good thing to do or not, but I remember when I was in my 20s, I would find them and I would harvest one, and then I would use a stick to make an image out of it. And as it dried, where I drew with a stick, the image would get dark brown and the rest would stay lighter. I liked it. And these little pink ones were kind of reminding me of cubensis. I don't know what cubensis look like, I don't think, but I was thinking of those, and there's so much medicine being used with mushrooms right now. And then of course this one is a bit of a warning one, and it also has that Alice in Wonderland vibe with the big caterpillar on top. And whenever I see one of these big red-topped mushrooms, I always hear, "Who are you?" Like in the story, right? So we've got this incredible ecosystem, and mushrooms are so intelligent. They are being found by scientists to be able to not only communicate with each other, but to learn and convey what they've learned. There were some other things too that were just very profoundly what we would call more humanistic, right? There was some sort of play situation, and they're finding these things. I mean, so many of us who have spent time in the woods and spent time with nature know and understand that, and so much more. There is some wonderful validation that comes when science says to everybody, well, we discovered this, and you're like, yeah, I knew that. And scientists are like, no, but we've proven it now. And you're like, yeah, I knew that. And that's part of it too, is being able to be patient and in humility when that person who shares their wisdom with you, but spirit's sharing it through them, and where they're coming from maybe isn't the best place, but spirit's got that profound message coming through. And you can, instead of being like, yeah, I know, because you don't need to bring that into it. Let them have what they need to have, because they'll learn as they go. And you being perfectly able to say within yourself, thank you, Spirit, and then express that to them. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And they'll go, wow, that was wisdom, perhaps. Or, yeah, that's theirs, right? That's for them to work with, and it's all exactly correct. So when the scientists say, the forest speaks, plants can scream and cry when we hack at them, and we can show it and prove it now, and all of you who know these things about wildlife and, flora and fauna are like, yeah, we know, thank you for bringing your version of conveying that truth to the world. So here's this is going to be perhaps a longer message. It's going to be so good. It's a story. So we're going to have fun and enjoy the journey of this story. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can. So there are 3 cards that came out, and these 2 are the big message points. The first one being the Green Mother, and you can see her here. And she's paired with those mushrooms, and so she's telling the story. I love how cards just go, yep, what you were thinking, because we were telling it to you, and here's some confirmation. This goddess incarnation, this Sophia of the Mother Earth, is there with her creation, her child, her daughter, a part of her, an extension of her. And the child is still in her youth, and you can see the child's looking up at the tops of the trees and the canopy and the birds, and the mother is looking down. And this Sophia, Mother of the Earth, is speaking for the earth through her. You can see the patterns on her legs and arms and feet, and her child's match the swirl and sway and the geometry of nature's patterning. And she's telling her little one, which is a part of her own inner child, as well as, once this inner child grows up, will be a part of the world for her own self. And she's telling the child about the rhythm and the nature of nature, the nature of all, and that it's in everything. And what's in the rabbit and the rabbit's life can be seen in the hedgehogs. And what's in the little baby bunny beneath her feet can be seen in the squirrels up above and behind her head. And what's in the squirrels can be seen in the patterning of the salal and underbrush behind her. And she's explaining to the little one, which is also her younger self, how they all not only can be seen as demonstrating themselves in the same way in their own unique expression. And that's their own unique expression that gives the biodiversity, creates an ecosystem so that there is ebb and flow and shift and sway. But that sameness is the touchstone of where we can go to and be back in our hearts, the heart that connects us, the portal that connects us to the purity of love that is the consciousness, the true highest consciousness of the Earth Mother, as well as the cosmos itself, right? And we can connect to that when we see the sameness and go, okay, prickly thorn bush that just scratched me all up, or nettles that I didn't see and laid down or ran through barefoot that now gave me red welts. I see that we are same. So if that's true, and I just went running barefoot without giving a care through this patch of spring nettles, and it stung me and gave me welts and warnings, what is it telling me? Oh, well, I don't like to be trampled on. I don't like it when things or beings bigger than me just plow through my habitat, my creation, and so I bite back, right? So they bit back. So I can sit with the nettles and say, what is it that you need? And they'll explain. And I'll say, well, sometimes I do like to walk barefoot, or I like to pick your tops and make soups and juices out of them to detox my system. May I do that? And then it'll say yes, and this is how we'd ask that you do it. And then when you do that, you go to pick those nettles where the little furry stingy parts are, all of the stem and the underleaf, and you go to pick them in that space of reverence. And I promise you, because I've done this more times than I can count, they will not sting you. There will be a communication, and they just don't sting you. But the first time when I was a little girl and I went out, I probably was about 7 years old or so, and I saw a bunch of beautiful flowers out in a field, and my mom was helping a neighbor that was having some health stuff. So I went out, I wanted to pick all these beautiful flowers for my mother, and this gentleman, he was in a wheelchair, so I knew he couldn't go out into the meadow and get it. So I just started picking, and I was so delighted, just little me running through fields, and I come in with this big bundle of wildflowers, and there's just tears streaking down my red face. I haven't thought about this in a while. And I'm like, my mom goes, what are you? And she saw what I was carrying, and there were a bunch of nettles with the little purple blue flowers on the top. And she said, honey, those are nettles, and told me, they sting and everything. And I dropped them, and I looked at my hands, and they were blistering red. And of course, it was a terrible experience. But in my innocence and in my heart's wish to do something good for somebody else, I didn't notice I was being disrespectful for a part of our world, my ecosystem, that in and of its own self brings pleasure just by existing and brings balance, and simply asks to be heard and honored in the way it needs to be honored, in the way they need to be honored. He or she needs to be honored. And that's what the mother teaches us. She teaches us for us with every fauna, every flora that exists, and any combinations, big or small. And then here's the second one. And it's great because I'm getting the message right now as I'm delivering it. And I really didn't have a full idea of what I was going to say. Let's bring that in a bit more. We have the something of bones, weaver of bones. And this talks about a woman who is surrounded by bounty. In fact, this is very much the story of me as a little girl gathering all the bounty, but this is more like, as an adult now, we surround ourselves with natural bounty, let it grow in its own way, but also in accordance with our needs as well. But the weaver of bones she knows these boons are, it's like pentacles, right? She knows that there is a delicate and yet workable balance. It's also lenient. And she's able to harvest so much from it. And she's got all these layers in her dress and skirt where she can store her bounty, including the pouches on her hips. And she's just so delighted. Her cottage in the background is beautiful and healthy and strong. And it blends a bit, but it stands out in its own way. But it's not obtruse, right? So wouldn't you know, the one card that comes between the two is Blink, the Two of Boons. And so he's in the middle of these two cards, the Mother Sophia incarnation speaking to the next generation of the nature of nature, and then the Weaver of Boons, who's just abundant in her wealth and healthy environment as well as her prosperity. And this fella's in the middle, the Two of Boons, and he's saying, we walk a path that's not narrow and it's well built, but it's important to stay balanced. And he just went and harvested some sticks. He's taking it to market. He's going to make things. Who knows what he's going to do with them? Something creative, something to bring him prosperity. It's a Two of Boons. And he's also remembering to keep balance. He didn't take more than was needed. He didn't break off branches that were healthy and strong. He took things from the underbrush. And he did it selectively, because he also knows some things in the underbrush need to stay to decompose and feed the forest floor. And just as a reminder, there's this troll under the bridge, right? Who's waiting for him to lose his balance, maybe take too much, or be too self-sacrificing and be off balance. And that troll, I can promise you, we all know about the trolls. He'll be there to catch that fella, and not in a fun way. And so that's the tale of the ecosystem of the mushrooms. The mushrooms that say, Twink, there we go. Well, we'll see. That say the snail's pace is the way to win the race. Slow and low, along our path we go. We listen and we learn from our heart's content to peace and bioluminescent. We connect the earth to the stars. Beautiful, right? Eee! All right, my beautiful Cancers. The mother within us all, men and women. The ocean waters within us all. We circulate the waters through our blood. That one drop from the ocean has many drops within each and every cell, within our blood circulatory, within our lymph, all everywhere, right? So we can speak to the ocean by speaking within ourselves. We can speak to the river by speaking within ourselves. We can commune with the clouds and the birds that soar through them by speaking with the water within ourselves, by speaking with ourselves. It's an ecosystem of conversation that is always present. The map. So you guys, you know where I'm going to go here with this, right? You already know. You can see that the map is the whole story. It's also the trail that's through it that the snail took. And he took his time. He looked and spent some time with the poppies. And then he traveled up a little further and he was like, oh, that's a nice lily pod. Yeah, there's some stagnant waters, but not for long, because summer's coming and the heat will evaporate those waters, dry some of that algae up, cause all kinds of upheaval in order to create new evolution and new possibilities. And the snail continues on and goes over to the side a little bit. It's like, oh, this is a cool trail. I'm starting to feel as I move along it. Boink, 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 boink. This isn't the true path for me. This isn't my true timeline. It was curious and interesting, but I can feel the pull taking me back to my center. Oh, it's this. Yeah, you know, all right? So you see what I'm saying here? The map. This is your map. This is the map that you created, the blueprint that you created. Of your life that you're living right now. You drew it out, you put in the details, you had addendums if things went sideways. And because it's your higher self, you had the consciousness capacity and capability in etheric form to play out all the potential things to go sideways and how to get yourself back on track. And then you brought in a team to help you in spirit. And that's a whole nother conversation what that's about. But you're on that path, and that team is there with you right now because you're in form. And in form, you can't access all of the everything all at once, and certainly not while interfacing with the physical world. But you can connect with your team and your higher aspect to remember the trust of the truth, that everything is exactly right. Even the puddles that you trip in and get all muddy, like, have some fun in it, you know? Even the honey badger that steps in front of your path and bares its teeth and scratches you, maybe gives you an infection on your leg, and you're like, and then you go over and you're like, what do I do? And the forest speaks to you and says, get some Oregon grapefruit and some spores underneath a fern and rub it on there. I don't know if that would work for that, but it works for other things that are microbial and infectious. But you get that message and you get it clearly and you go, how did I know that? Well, you didn't, but you were in communication. So here are the 3 cards that came out with the map. I'm going to hold them up. We will discuss them. Okay. So the first card is strength. You're on your journey. It requires strength. You know this. And you're not alone. That wolf is part of your pack. And he's right now in the shape of a wolf. But what's animating him is a part of your higher self and or your spirit team. And for a while, it will be the wolf that stands behind you and walks with you to help keep you strong and let you know that you're not alone. But sometimes the wolf in its incarnate form will go somewhere else and no longer have spirit moving through him for whatever all the reasons. And now your spirit team, your higher self, is speaking to you through birds or through your sister or your best friend or your ex or abusive parents. And it's not the deliverance, it's the message therein. And you'll know who to be around the most, but who to spend the most time with, but you'll also be able to know that during the brief periods of time when you're encountering and interacting with those that challenge and create a bit of a disarray, a bit of chaos to kind of blow things up a little bit and bring it back together, that when you stay in your heart and you hear the pure message from spirit, that's what brings everything back into alignment after the chaos blow up. And it comes back into alignment better than ever before in so many ways. And this, the 8 of spells being in reverse. Let's see if I can. So this represents, I believe, the 8 of wands, or it's similar to the 8 of wands. These are big messages. Owls don't mess around with messages. They will take messages from anybody, but they don't take trivial messages. They take the ones that matter. So if you have an owl come visit you, particularly a white owl, but any owl, each one has its own, whether it's a barn owl, brown owl, they all have their different types of messages they bring for you. So when an owl shows up, it's got a big message. And so for Sorry, I just saw an eagle fly. Of course, we know eagles have messages. So when the 8 of spells comes in with these owls in reverse, it's saying that it's time to slow down so that you can slow the messages down so that you can get them all. So if you're moving at a fast pace and there's a lot going on, you'll be able to graze the surface of some of all the messages, but certainly not absorb and integrate the totality of them when you slow down. And this goes along with that trust in spirit, trust in the map that you created, and trust in your pace. It can be fun to move fast and furious. And you know, Mars just went direct in the sign of Cancer, and prior to it going direct, it felt like a sludge pace to get done what absolutely needed and even had to get done on 3-dimensional timelines, societal timelines. I went through that myself, and Spirit kept saying, no, hold the line, dig your heels in, Lillian, and take the pace that we are telling you to take. And it was honestly, not in any real way, but it was excruciating to go that slow. I was just, oh. And then the pressure, of course, from the world outside saying, this has to be done. And I had to simply let go and let the pace of spirit be the true pace of my map. So I had to turn those fast flyers upside down. And when you've got the child of visions upside down, this too is also right side up. She talks about just wild abandon, frivolity in play with nature, which is amazing. And it's very young and energetic and playful and flower blooming in essence. It's that rainy spring morning that's kind of cold, but it feels warm. There's that eagle again, that it feels warm, but it's a warm that radiates from the child's body and her play, his play in nature, in the natural world. And she's upside down right now because Spirit is saying there is a time for this, and the time right now is to listen to the pace and the guidelines, like those guide rails of your journey, and learn how to move at a slower pace to hear and feel and see and know the details of when to turn left, when to turn right, when to slow down, when to speed up, when to change, alter the energetic stance that you're holding, the tone that you're conveying, the emotions that you're feeling and silently projecting, and all the things, because there's so many layers of nuance. There's the word again. I want to make a t-shirt that says something about nuance. I don't know why. It seems like a thing to do. Slow down the play a little bit. Still play. Be in play the entire time. And by doing it slower, with more presence and awareness, you'll be allowed to see aspects of the world around you that you never saw before, and those will become a part of your play. Like an example would be if you're out in the woods building a fort, and you're building a fort, you're going to build the fort with broken branches and sticks and things like that. And you start doing that, and your eyes are focused, and you can move fast or slow, and you'll see everything that is fort-like broken branches and sticks. That'd be perfect for it. And because you know that's what you need to make a fort. But what happens when you slow down and you just take in everything that's in this space, and everything else that's not a branch or a stick starts to speak to you and tell you how it can become a part of that fort. And now you've got a fort that has ecosystems of mushrooms and vines and stones and bird nests, and everything that's interacting in your fort is an entire living piece of art. It's so much more than it ever would have been if you had stayed focused on finding the things that you knew already would make a fort. There it is. We dialed it in. All right. And then last, how we doing on time? We're good. Right? How we doing on time? We're good. The forest treasure. So here's this bird. I meant to look up what kind of bird this is. And he's holding a key to the moonlight on an extension branch of a winter brush. It's got winter berries on it. So I thought, okay, and it says the forest treasures. And my first thought was the obvious. Okay, so what's the key? We've got the moon. What's hidden? What's hidden in the dark that only the moon's full light can illuminate entirely? That's the key. And this is the winter. This is a winter branch with winter berries on it. There aren't very many. And as I was shuffling for the complimentary cards, the first one that just flew out on its own very own, blink, come on then, was this wonderful confirmation. And I didn't spend time with it yet because I thought, oh, it's just telling me the same thing. But now as I'm presenting it, it wants to say more. So here we've got a full moon and it's being reflected in the pool. And the rabbit's, one of them anyways, is looking in the pool, not at his own reflection, but in what the stars in the sky are telling him, something that he couldn't see with his own physical eyes as clearly and in as much detail as he can up close in the reflection of this pool. There's all these swirls around in the water, maybe from the water, maybe from the clouds, maybe both. It's images of stars, and whether they're actually the true reflections, they are conveying the mirror of what's in the sky above. And you can see his other companion rabbit to his side is looking up and out. So he's looking up to the sky to see it. And so they're both taking on different angles of seeing the same thing. And in the back is this kind of watered out or washed out hologram of another rabbit. It reminds me of Watership Down. Is it the Black Rabbit? When he comes, the Rabbit of Death, when he comes to take you to your next transitionary place, or he takes you through your transition when your body lets go and your spirit moves on. Oh, there's something coming through and I don't have it yet, but I can just feel these beautiful chills sweeping through me. So let's look at the rest of the cards and see if we can pull the message through. So those two came together to really bring in an emphasis that there's a point here to be made and had. So the first card is the sunlight. There's this dog barking in the background. Again, also reminiscent of Watership Down, that movie. Anyways, I loved it. I love it. But it's distracting. And it's more than distracting me. I'm having a reaction to it that is requiring me to not contract internally and to open and allow it to move through me. And somehow that's a part of this. We'll see. So here we have this image of the piper playing his music that is attuned in frequency, harmony, rhythm with the forest around him. And in doing so, when the sun hit a very certain point in its sunrise or sunset, I'm saying sunrise, the music attuning with the nature of nature, created a portal. And so he's looking out into this portal that he has created. It's called sunlight. 21. The portal he's creating is not one that he needs to physically travel through. Let's bring this back into focus. There are little particles, little wisps from the Fey world, shall we say, that are able to move in and out, just like electrons in an atom are able to skip out of their shells around their given surrounding nucleus. And scientists have been able to demonstrate and show this, and they can move to transdimensionally. They can move to anywhere in outer space, and then scientists were able to find that they are moving somewhere even beyond our known universe and then coming back. I don't know how they're figuring all that out. But again, it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, that's how we do consciousness. That's how we travel with our consciousness. Well, it's not how, but it's illustrating it. So here is the satyr. I don't ever say that name correctly. He's of the Fae. He's of the forest. He knows how to communicate by connecting with his heart and through his art, which happens to be music, with the natural world around, to bring in messages, to bring in light, to bring in new dimension of light. And so through that portal, through the sun of his world, like our sun of our planet, he's able to sing a song on behalf of the natural world around him that will transmit messages to the sun, through the sun, beyond the sun, to other suns in the universe and even beyond of the multiverse and other timelines, to convey what is needed, what balance needs to be struck, where justice needs to be recalibrated. And sometimes it's not simply a measure of counterbalancing an imbalance. Sometimes it's also bringing two oppositions together to reconcile and transcend. And then sometimes it's something so beyond what even the artist, the musician, can fully conceptualize, definitely articulate with their words, but they can know it in their music, in their art. The artist in their art can pull in awareness and wisdom, downloads, vision, concepts, ways of living and thinking and being through their art. They can pull that in from the multiverse, put it on paper, put it out in music, carve it in stone. And the people who view it will, as they are able for each individual, be able to receive that information, those epiphanies, those inspirations, right? The artist inspires. I'm having a great day. So here we have the central card of the three is the Five of Spells, but he's in reverse. So let's just do that now. The Five of Spells talks about like a young Merlin. He's had his apprenticeship is underway. I'm not able to focus that today. So he's playing with his ability to weave magic with his wand, and he's trying to turn a frog. Let's see if we can't bring that back. A frog into a prince, one that's not so unlike himself, but a bit of a mirror image. You can see with the red cape instead of the blue. But as he's turning the frog into this human being, it's just coming around circle and being some weird hybrid of a prince frog thing. And he's just making a mess of his magic. So here's what's being said. if you found yourself in a bit of a rookie position and your magic's got some spurts and burps and toots and broken flutes, I don't know. That's being turned upside down. And not because it's telling you to not do it, it's because it's saying that you are now reaching a point where your artistic expression, like in that sun card, is what's creating the magic. You don't have to do a spell or a cast or a ritual that's been written out by somebody else or yourself even. You don't have to do a certain Tai Chi formation. You can simply enter the center of your being, hold the purity sensation of the truth of that purity in heart. You can hear the kitty. Confirmation. And as you do that, your body will be compelled. Your body will become that portal for that wisdom to enter, and it will move you. And you'll be doing intuitive Tai Chi, intuitive cooking, intuitive music riffs on your classic guitar, your 12-string. You will be doing intuitive pottery, intuitive landscaping, building, intuitive parenting, intuitive showing up for coffee for a girlfriend or tea, intuitive listening and intuitive speaking. And in that flow, you will be weaving your magic. You will be making it happen, but it will be taking out the mental planning and precision, and it will be bringing in the heart of the matter, which allows, which allows for spirit, the greater consciousness that is aware of all the greater details, to take over and do that job. And that is what this last card of our reading today is bringing in with a big boom. I think this says the oldest one, the eldest one, the elder, oh, you know. He, she, they. This is the elder. I mean, look at that, honestly. They have been connected and connecting the earth consciousness with the stars and the wind from the collective messages, and the starlight and the moonlight from the sun and the cosmos. And in the center of their being, they are the vessel of the flow of downloads of, they are both the portal and the conveyor. They are the presence and the manifestation. They are the contribution and they are the receiver. They are the life and they are the death. They are the whole of it. They are the oldest one. Playful, present, still, in peace and in contentment. Is that it? Is that the message? Do we want another card? I just heard a package from Amazon be dropped outside my door. I guess the message the message has arrived, my friends. I love you. So true. Each and every one of you, many or few. It is a poet day. What is going on with that? I love it. Thank you for having fun with me and playing with me today. Thank you for sharing heart, space, and love, and joy, and grief, and challenge. Thank you for being every aspect of who you are. The jagged and the poison tips, and the soft and the supple. I love you for every bit of it. I absolutely, truly do. And I'm glad you're here. Be blessed.